beat! It's Brother Hipperson-Race here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about not if capitalism is bound to fail, because I feel as though that is a much too broad a topic to kind of put into a 10-minute video. So instead, I'm going to do, should the state be allowed to censor people? Because I think it's a very interesting and controversial topic at the minute as well. So yeah, hope you enjoy. So first of all, the thing about the big problem I see with censorship as a start is that it kind of assumes that the state has a version of right and wrong which then can be universally applied to everybody in the state. So kind of going at Kant's categorical imperative there, they're kind of saying that yes, this is our interpretation of good, and therefore this must be your interpretation of good, which to me is problematic, simply because of this. So if we take Marx's materialist conception of history, that is to say, the position you're born into, so if you're born into a working class family or a rich family or a middle class family, chances are your conception of morality is going to be even slightly or sometimes majorly different to somebody else's conception of good and bad. And a perfect example of this can be how recently the decision to bomb or not bomb Syria was very controversial, with MPs obviously having a yes or no vote. And I think it was Jeremy Corbyn who urged his party to vote on their own conscience. However, you can't quote me on that, I'm afraid. And the MP for Halifax, which is where I live, she voted in favour of the airstrikes, presumably because she found that this would be a morally good act. However, the problem this presents is thus. The MP I voted for to represent me in the House of Parliament has a different conception of morality, which therefore highlights how it's basically impossible for the state to create a clear-cut line between good and bad. For example, if we're going to bring back Kant's categorical imperative once more, for the MP for Halifax, obviously for her, it would be her maxim, which could be made universalised, that it's okay to bomb people in certain circumstances. However, for me, that doesn't sit right. So therefore, it just kind of shows how one person's conception of morality can be so much different to another person's morality, despite them being quite close in a kind of way. So how's this linked with censorship? Well, I think the big question we've got to ask ourselves is, to what right has the state to censorship people? Because if we look at Locke's position on private property, he claims that people own two things. They own themselves and their labour. And therefore, for me, for the state to kind of interfere with any kind of part of either me or you, so if they try and kind of push a certain way of thinking, or if they try and kind of nudge you into doing something, or if they just censor people full stop, to me that is a direct interference with private property, of which the state, in my opinion, has no right to do so, simply because they have different versions of right and wrong. So if the government just suddenly turned around one day and said, look, well, it's time to, I don't know, go to war with New Zealand, that would be them trying to push kind of a rhetoric on me that New Zealand was bad. They could start censoring New Zealand peace activists, etc. Who knows what could happen? But anything to do with any kind of perversion of who we are or what we should begin to think, to me that's censorship, and that shouldn't be allowed because they have no right to do so. And I think a good way of looking at this is how Paine understands the role of government, and that is the provision of happiness, which is obviously a utilitarian view. So, in my opinion, censorship cannot be justified as a means of spreading happiness, because, for example, people who do advocate censorship may use John Stuart Mill, who's also a utilitarian, his harm principle, where we can say people like the example we use in class a lot is the Westboro Baptist Church, and they can say that the way they picket soldiers' funerals is very harmful to the families, and therefore that kind of protest should be banned. However, I think that shouldn't be right, because if we look at Peter Singer, who's also utilitarian, idea of varying happiness, it seems retrograde to censor anybody, because by not censoring, the state would allow society to exercise a greater measure of free will when making a moral decision. So, if we just suddenly got rid of the Westboro Baptist Church and the way they picket, we said no, that's not allowed anymore, that kind of problem in society would be invisible. The fact that that kind of homophobia and kind of just general disrespect would be getting kind of ignored. We'd say, look, problem's over, it doesn't exist anymore. But it doesn't. It still exists in their minds. So if we have it visible in the open air, we can then kind of engage with the Westboro Baptist Church. We can talk about things. We can develop our own ideas without the state having to do so for us. I think that's a much healthier way of dealing with the problem than just by censoring it straight off the mark. And also, I think it would bring, because we're talking about John Stuart Mill and Paine as well, who are utilitarians, it would bring a much larger degree of happiness to much larger degree of people if we allow the freedom to come to their own conclusions of right and wrong, which, as I argued earlier, the state can't do anyway. But finally, as John Milton says, censorship enters the soul, which in my opinion is a hindrance to societal development, as we are not free to formulate our own ideas, which cause them to stagnate and solve anything. And what's more, while censorship may work on the will of the people, it doesn't work on the mind. So like I was saying earlier about the Westboro Baptist Church, we could get rid of them overnight and they wouldn't technically exist anymore if they were censored or put away or anything like that. But those kind of ideas that they still have in their heads, they wouldn't go away. And future generations, because of their place in both society, history, and material, their views may or may not be the same. So it seems retrograde to kind of do something that impedes on human freedom. So yeah, I hope that was okay for you. And this video sounds hopefully a lot better than the last one I just did. It's my second attempt. And yeah, look forward to discussing why the state should censor people, or not censor people, as I just argued. So, thank you.